We're reading the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, and we're on the last chapter called After the Passing Away. The brothers are living in the Bharanagore Math, and Rabindra, one of the householder devotees, is visiting them. He has been sadly disillusioned by his mistress, and he is bemoaning the fact. The Narendra and some of the other brothers are trying to console him. So we left off with the members of the monastery assembled in the room of the Danas. Narendra heard Rabindra's story. He sang by way of giving instruction to him, "O man, abandon your delusion, cast aside your wicked counsels. Know the Lord and free yourself from earthly suffering. For a few days' pleasure only, you have quite forgotten him, who is the comrade of your soul. Alas, what mockery." Narendra sang again, "Drinking the bliss of Hari from the cup of prema, sadhu, be intoxicated." A few minutes later, the brothers went to Kali Tapasya's room. Girish Ghosh had just sent 2 of his new books to the monastery, The Life of Buddha and The Life of Chaitanya. Since the founding of the new Math, Sashi, that's Swami Ramakrishnananda, had devoted himself heart and soul to the worship and service of the Master. All were amazed at his devotion. Just as he had tended Sri Ramakrishna's physical body during his illness, so now, with the same unswerving zeal, he worshipped the Master in the shrine room. A member of the monastery was reading aloud from the lives of Buddha and Chaitanya. He was a little sarcastic while reading Chaitanya's life. Narendra snatched the book from his hand and said, "That is how you spoil a good thing." Narendra read the chapter describing how Chaitanya gave his love to all, from the Brahmin to the pariah, a brother. "I say that one person cannot give love to another person." Narendra, "But the Master gave it to us." Brother, "Well, are you sure you have it?" Narendra, "What can you understand about love? You belong to the servant class. All of you must serve me and massage my feet. Don't flatter yourselves by thinking you have understood everything. Now go and prepare a smoke for me." They all laughed. The brother, "I surely will not." M to himself, Sri Ramakrishna has transmitted metal to all the brothers of the Math. It is no monopoly of Narendra's. Is it possible to renounce lust and greed without this inner fire? May 10th, 1887. It was Tuesday, a very auspicious day for the worship of the Divine Mother. Arrangements were being made for her special worship at the monastery. M was going to the Ganges to take his bath. Rabindra was walking alone on the roof. He heard Narendra singing the 6 stanzas on Nirvana. "Death or fear I have none, nor any distinction of caste. Neither father nor mother, nor even a birth have I. Neither friend nor comrade, neither disciple nor guru. I am pure knowledge and bliss. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. I have no form or fancy. The all-pervading am I. Everywhere I exist, yet I am beyond the senses. Neither salvation am I, nor anything that may be known. I am pure knowledge and bliss. I am Shiva. I am Shiva." Rabindra went to the Ganges to take his bath. Presently he returned to the monastery clad in his wet cloth. Narendra said to M in a whisper, "He has bathed in the Ganges. It would be good to initiate him now into sannyas." Both Narendra and M smiled. Prasanna asked Rabindra to change his wet cloth and gave him a dry Garwa cloth. Narendra said to M, "Now he is going to put on the cloth of renunciation." M with a smile. What kind of renunciation? Narendra, why the renunciation of lust and greed. Rabindra put on the ochre cloth and entered Kali Tapasya's room to meditate. They had a lot of fun together, shall we say. Then we'll go on to the first appendix with Keshab at Dakshineshwar. Saturday, January 1st, 1881. Keshab Chandra Sen, the leader of the Brahmo Samaj, was expected to visit Sri Ramakrishna at the temple garden of Dakshineshwar. With the master were many Brahmo celebrities, Pratap, Trilokya, Jayagopal, and others. It was only a few days before the annual festival of the Brahmo Samaj, and the Brahmos were eagerly awaiting the arrival of their leader, who was to come by steamer. They were restless and talking rather noisily. Ram, Manamohan, and several other devotees of the master were also there. At last, Keshab entered the master's room with 2 fruits and a bouquet of flowers in his hands. Touching the master's feet, he laid the offering at his side. Then he saluted Sri Ramakrishna with great reverence, bowing very low before him. Sri Ramakrishna returned in like manner his distinguished visitor's salutation. Then he laughingly began the conversation. Master, you, Keshab, want me, but your disciples don't. I was saying to them, let us be restless, then Govinda will come. To Keshab's disciples, see, here is your Govinda. We have been showing signs of restlessness all this while to set the stage for your arrival. It isn't easy to have the vision of Govinda. You must have noticed in the Krishna Yatra that Narada enters Vrindavan and prays with great yearning, O Govinda, O my soul, O life of my life. And then Krishna comes on the stage with the cowherd boys, followed by the gopis. No one can see God without that yearning. Well, Keshab, say something. They are eager to hear your words. Keshab humbly with a smile. To open my lips here would be like trying to sell needles to a blacksmith. Master smiling. But don't you know the nature of devotees is like that of hemp smokers? One hemp smoker says to another, please take a puff for yourself and give me one. Everyone laughs. It was about 4:00 in the afternoon. They heard the music from the Nahabat in the temple garden. Master to Keshab and the others, do you hear how melodious that music is? One player is producing only a monotone on his flute, while another is creating waves of melodies in different ragas and raganis. That is my attitude. Why should I produce only a monotone when I have an instrument with 7 holes? Why should I say nothing but, I am he, I am he? I want to play various melodies on my instrument with 7 holes. Why should I say only, Brahma, Brahma? I want to call on God through all the moods, through Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhur. I want to make merry with God. I want to sport with God. Keshab listened to these words with wonder in his eyes and said to the Brahmo devotees, I have never before heard such a wonderful and beautiful interpretation of jnana and bhakti. Keshab to the master, how long will you hide yourself in this way? I dare say people will be thronging here by and by in great crowds. Master, what are you talking of? I only eat and drink and sing God's name. I know nothing about gathering crowds. Hanuman once declared, I know nothing about the day of the week or the position of the moon, and stars in the sky. I simply meditate on Rama. Keshav, all right, sir. I shall gather the crowd, but they all must come to your place. Master, I am the dust of everybody's feet. If anyone is gracious enough to come here, he is welcome. Keshav, whatever you may say, sir, your advent cannot be in vain. In the meantime, the devotees had arranged a kirtan. Many of them had joined it. The party started at the Panchavati and moved towards the master's room. Hridoy blew the horn. Gopidas played the drum, and 2 devotees played the cymbals. Sri Ramakrishna sang, "O man, if you would live in bliss, repeat Lord Hari's name. Then you will lead a life of joy and go to paradise, and feed upon the fruit of moksha evermore. Such is the glory of his name. I give you the name of Hari, which Shiva, God of gods, repeats aloud with his 5 mouths." The master danced with the strength of a lion and went into samadhi. Regaining consciousness of the outer world, he sat down in his room and began to talk with Keshav and the other devotees. Master, God can be realized through all paths. It is like your coming to Dakshineshwar by carriage, by boat, by steamer, or on foot. You have chosen the way according to your convenience and taste, but the destination is the same. Some of you have arrived earlier than others, but all have arrived. The more you rid yourself of upadhis, the nearer you will feel the presence of God. Rainwater never collects on a high mound. It collects only in lowland. Similarly, the water of God's grace cannot remain on the high mound of egotism. Before God, one should feel lowly and poor. One should be extremely watchful. Even clothes create vanity. I noticed that even a man suffering from an enlarged spleen sings Nidhu Babu's light songs when he is dressed up in a black bordered cloth. There are men who spout English whenever they put on high boots, and when an unfit person puts on an ochre cloth, he becomes vain. The slightest sign of indifference to him rouses his anger and pique. God cannot be seen without yearning of heart, and this yearning is impossible unless one is finished with the experiences of life. Those who live surrounded by lust and greed and have not yet come to the end of their experiences do not yearn for God. When I lived at Kamarpukur, Hridoy's son, a child of 4 or 5 years old, used to spend the whole day with me. He played with his toys and almost forgot everything else. But no sooner did evening come than he would say, "I want to go to my mother." I would try to cajole him in various ways and would say, "Here, I'll give you a pigeon." But he wouldn't be consoled with such things. He would cry and weep, "I want to go to my mother." He didn't enjoy playing anymore. I myself wept to see his state. One should cry for God that way, like a child. That is what it means to be restless for God. One doesn't enjoy play or food any longer. After one's experiences of the world are over, one feels this restlessness and weeps for God. The devotee sat in silence, listening to the master's words. When evening came, a lamp was lighted in the room. Preparations were being made for feeding Keshav and the devotees. Keshav, with a smile, "What? Puffed rice again today?" Master smiling, "Hridoy knows." The devotees were served first with puffed rice and then with luchi and curries on leaf plates. All enjoyed the meal very much. It was about 10 o'clock when supper was over. The master went to the Panchavati with Keshab and the devotees. Master to Keshab and the others. One can very well live in the world after realizing God. Why don't you first touch the granny and then play hide and seek? After attaining God, a devotee becomes unattached to the world. He lives like a mudfish. The mudfish keeps his body unstained, though it lives in mud. About 11 o'clock, the Brahmos became eager to go home. Pratap said, "It would be nice if we could spend the night here." Master to Keshab, "Why not stay here tonight?" Keshab smiling, "No, I have business to attend to. I must go." Master, "Why must you, my dear sir? Can't you sleep without your fish basket?" Once a fishwife was a guest in a gardener's house. She was asked to sleep in a room full of flowers, but she couldn't get any sleep there. Everyone laughed. She was restless and began to fidget about. The gardener called to her, "Hello there. Why aren't you asleep?" "Oh, I don't know," said the fishwife. "There are flowers here. The smell keeps me awake. Can't you bring me my fish basket?" She sprinkled a little water in the basket, and when she smelled the fish, she fell fast asleep. All laughed heartily. Keshab took a few of the flowers that he had offered at Sri Ramakrishna's feet on his arrival. He and his Brahmo devotees cried out as they saluted the master, "Hail, Navavidan!" Thus they bade him adieu. One day during the rainy season of 1881, Sri Ramakrishna and a number of devotees visited Surendra's house. It was about dusk. The master entered the drawing room on the second floor, where several of Surendra's neighbors had already gathered. Keshab had also been invited but could not come. Trailokya and a few Brahmo devotees were present. A mat covered with a white sheet was spread on the floor, and on it had been placed a beautiful carpet with a cushion. Surendra requested the master to sit on the carpet, but Sri Ramakrishna would not listen to him and sat on the mat next to Mahendra Goswami, one of Surendra's neighbors. Mahendra to the devotees, "For several months I spent most of my time with him," meaning Sri Ramakrishna. "I have never before seen such a great man. His spiritual moods are not of the ordinary kind." Master to Mahendra, "How dare you say that? I am the most insignificant of the insignificant, the lowliest of the lowly. I am the servant of the servants of God. Krishna alone is great. Krishna is none other than Satchidananda, the indivisible Brahman. The water of the ocean looks blue from a distance. Go near it and you will find it colorless. He who is endowed with attributes is also without attributes. The absolute and the relative belong to the same reality. Why is Krishna Tribhanga, bent in three places? Because of his love for Radha. That which is Brahman is also Kali, the Adya Shakti, who creates, preserves, and destroys the universe. He who is Krishna is the same as Kali. The root is one. All these are his sport and play. God can be seen. He can be seen through the pure mind and the pure intelligence. Through attachment to lust and greed, the mind becomes impure. The mind is everything. It is like a white cloth just returned from the laundry. It will take any color you dye it with. Knowledge is of the mind, and ignorance also is of the mind. When you say that a certain person has become impure, you mean that impurity has colored his mind. Surendra approached the master with a garland and wanted to put it around his neck, but the master took it in his hand and threw it aside. Surendra's pride was wounded and his eyes filled with tears. He went to the west porch and sat with Ram, Manomohan, and the others. In a voice choked with sadness, he said, "I am really angry. How can a poor Brahmin know the value of a thing like that? I spent a lot of money for that garland, and he refused to accept it. I was unable to control my anger and said that the other garlands were to be given away to the devotees. Now I realize it was all my fault. God cannot be bought with money. He cannot be possessed by a vain person. I have really been vain. Why should he accept my worship? I don't feel like living anymore." Tears streamed down his cheeks and over his chest. In the meantime, Trilokya was singing inside the room. The master began to dance in an ecstasy of joy. He put around his neck the garland that he had thrown aside. Holding it with one hand, he swung it with the other as he danced and sang. Now Surendra's joy was unbounded. The master had accepted his offering. Surendra said to himself, "God crushes one's pride, no doubt, but he is also the cherished treasure of the humble and lowly." The master now sang, "Behold, the two brothers have come, who weep while chanting Hari's name. The brothers who, in return for blows, offer to sinners Hari's love. Behold them drunk with Hari's love, who make the world drunk as well. Embracing everyone as brother, even the outcast, shunned by men. Behold, the two brothers have come, who were once Kanai and Balai of Braja." Many of the devotees danced while Sri Ramakrishna sang this song. When the kirtan was over, everyone sat around the master and became engaged in pleasant conversation. Sri Ramakrishna said to Surendra, "Won't you give me something to eat?" Then he went into the inner apartments where the ladies saluted him. After the meal, Sri Ramakrishna left for Dakshineshwar. I think we'll stop there this evening. Yeah. Any discussion about anything that we have read? Okay. No discussion, all right. I will. Tomorrow our lecture will be Reformation by Swami Arupeshananda. It's been quite a while since he's been up here. And then on, let's see, the 2nd of March at 6 o'clock in the evening will be Shivaratri here in the temple. On the... March 1st Tuesday. Huh? March 1st Tuesday, sorry. There's so many, I'm really confused right now. March 1st Tuesday will be Shivaratri at 6 o'clock in the temple. Wednesday we'll have the reading for Seekers of God at 5 o'clock. Friday the 4th we will have the Ramakrishna Puja starting at 11 o'clock in the temple and on YouTube. And then Saturday the 6th we'll have the gospel reading at 5 o'clock. There's a lot of events happening this next week. So I hope you can make it. And we'll end with a chant. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.